took the motor home down to get it fixed. That's the only reason it's here.
I took the motor home down to get fixed. The Ford had a recall on it, so it was sitting there. The rental was in the driveway, and it's the only reason it was here. The wife was getting off work from the night shift, and she was coming to pick me up. We hadn't even reached the generator repair shop when she told me that Paradise was being evacuated, and I thought, that's impossible. That's not a prevailing wind. I leaned forward and saw that smoke pouring due west. And
yeah, it's incomprehensible. I think if I had been here, I would have said, this is just baloney.
Yeah. So we drove straight up here. We didn't even change vehicles. I drove in this and got all the way up to Wagstaff and Pence.
Yeah.
Pulled over at the station there in the corner. And it was a wall of fire, and I got out, started running.
Left the motorhome.
Left the motorhome. I pulled it off the road and started running, and the
trying to get here, not
fire, because we couldn't get a hold of my folks. You know,
right.
86 and 90, and the power was off. My mom, she didn't have her hearing aids in, so she couldn't hear the cell phone, and we couldn't get a hold of them, so I had to get to them. And I was running, and the fireman stopped me and said, you can't go in there. And I tried to tell him what the deal was, and he said, we got people back there working. And I could hear the propane tanks popping like popcorn, and I hear the trees falling. And he shook my shoulder and he said, you need to get that thing off my road. And he was pointing at the RV. The craziest part is I'd have been down in Chico dropping off my son for work if that hadn't been down there to get the work done on it. Meaning, there would have been no vehicle for my folks to get out. My dad's got dementia and sundowner, so he's up all night long.
Oh, wow.
And he saw the backyard burning and tried to convince my mom that it was time to leave, and she didn't believe him because he has dementia. Finally, he said, you got to get up and go.
He wasn't crazy that day.
Nope. And she looked out the back window, and it was black as night, except for the fire burning the fence and everything else. And they gathered up the animals they could. One of the dogs, it was raining fire, and one of the dogs pulled out of her collar and ran back in the house. She's all black. They couldn't find her.
Oh, yeah.
So she's probably somewhere underneath all that.
Right.
And the folks drove out. We didn't know. So then I started the trip out. My wife, she made it up to Safeway. They wouldn't let her go any further. And it wasn't burning yet.
That's Clark?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it wasn't burning yet. And
so Dave back here, the appraiser,
yep,
said they let Clark burn so that people could get down it. If they put fire equipment on it, it was going to clog everything up. I don't know.
They, you know, from what I saw, and I've got 6 years experience wildland firefighting.
Oh, you do?
They had everything was horrendous. Everything was wrong. So many different warning signs. They weren't trying to fight it. They couldn't.
Right.
They were fighting it in a whole different fashion. They were fighting it to save lives.
Right.
They were standing at the street corners, directing us out, trying to find avenues that were still clear with the radio, communicating, and they did a wonderful job. So I got this thing turned around and started down the hill. You know, and there was quite a few times we were bumper to bumper, but there was 2 times. One in particular, I was stopped for over an hour. Nobody was moving.
Yeah.
And you know, fighting the panic, seeing people get out of their vehicles and just running, and then other people getting out and, you know, pushing the vehicles off the road so it was clear for the vehicles that were gonna stay and tough it out. And I thought it was a new type of panic, something I'd never experienced. I started getting dizzy.
Oh, okay. It's high anxiety.
Nope.
No?
The engine stopped.
The engine stopped.
The engine stopped and the other vehicles started stalling.
Lack
of oxygen.
Lack of oxygen. Wow.
Fire was already burned up on both sides of the road. And we were waiting for the fire to flash in front of us and burn down so we could drive through. So I finally got off the hill at around 4:30.
That's a story you hear over and again. It took an hour and a half to go a mile.
Yeah, well, I was stuck in one spot for over an hour, just sitting there with a bunch of other people. And, I saw some people driving on the sidewalk and everything else, some crazy stuff. But for the most part, what I saw was people grabbing people, put them in their vehicles. People working together to push vehicles off the road.
Right.
In one case, there was a little old lady and her PT Cruiser,
Yeah.
and it kept stalling. And the guy in front of me, he'd ease up, hit his bumper, and push her up the hills.
Uh-huh.
And she'd roll down the hill and get started again. And stuff like that over and over again.
Uh-huh.
People working together to get each other out.
We wouldn't even have known our place was there. We wouldn't have known anything for over 2 weeks because this was the last area reported.
Right?
We know a firefighter. And he came by here the next morning and made a video and emailed me, so we knew the next day.
Yeah, it was a pretty good guess once they started releasing the drone maps.
Yeah.
And you could look in our neighborhood out here and see all the white vehicles. It was a pretty good clue what was going on and why they didn't release us into here.
This area off of Dean, both sides, up to that little orchard, I counted roughly 140 homes. I counted 8 intact, 8 with slight damage. Everything was gone.
19 and 20.
Okay.
19 and 20 structures
Yeah.
gone.
You know?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And the fire burned so hot, we got a firebox. The door in the firebox was melted.
Uh-huh.
Pyrex, melted, all kinds
Melted
of stuff.
Pyrex.
Yep.
And the kitchen sink.
I haven't seen any melted steel. People are making a big deal about melted aluminum.
Oh, yeah.
But no, even on radial tires, it's all those steel bands. That's like a, 18 gauge wire maybe.
Yeah.
It's all intact. I didn't see any melted steel wire.
I haven't seen any melted steel.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of warped steel. My
Yes,
rock bar
yes.
is warped. I've seen, there's a, what street is that on? The I-beam. The I-beam is just warped and twisted.
Oh,
Big I-beam, like a foot across.
you can't remember the street.
No.
Is it that building on, near the gas station?
We were taking your brother down to take pictures of the exit route I took.
And the one we were thinking was a church, but we weren't sure? Is that what you're talking about?
I can't remember where it was. We went down Clark. I know that.
So maybe it's on Clark.
Yeah. But I-beam's twisted. You see a lot of stuff like that there. No melted steel.
Nah.
But we got obsidian back there, and most of it cracked, but we've got some of it actually melted.
Oh.
So you're looking at least 6,000 degrees.
I was just down at the river.
That's
I went.
the Midland
I went down and touched the river.
Yeah.
I found a rock that split apart from heat. Directly behind us, I found a piece of that black granite, not the white granite with the black specks. This is black granite with white specks. It was like a 10-pound rock split in the middle from
Yep.
heat.
Yep. Any kind of moisture inside of it. You see a lot of the concrete, wherever.
Yeah, I saw popping concrete.
Yeah.
Like over here on Chapman, he had a lot of exploding concrete on his.
The gasoline poured out of here and went down the driveway, and you can see where it's chiseled
Oh,
up.
yeah, right in
And then,
here.
of course, we had the rock saws, so that was full of vegetable oil, and it got hot
Oh.
enough to cook the vegetable oil,
Uh-huh.
and it poured out and popped the concrete.
Yeah.
So, because we had a lapidary shop,
Uh-huh.
so rock cutting.
Yeah.
Come on, sweetie.
Well, okay, I'll turn it on.
The idea that they're burning out
Space aliens.
communities of independent people that want to live off the grid and everything like that there, and put them in the cities where they can control them easier. Okay,
Right.
1984 kind of Big Brother. That one has a bite to it and almost believable, but then speed lines, gold,
Right.
aliens. Oh, give me a break.
Yeah, the microwave. If it was any kind of a laser beam or whatever coming down, it will leave a mark in the smoke. It's energy, and the smoke is going to reveal it.
Well, one of the things that they're saying about the microwaves and laser beams is that That's why it's so random, because they were targeting specific areas. Okay, so let's go out here and look at what survives. So are you telling me that Big Brother loves Jiffy Lube?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, the Masonic Hall is still here, but the IOOF is gone. The Mormons are gone. I don't know if you know anything about Mormonism and Freemasonry are the same thing. So
It's just a lot of fun
it's just
stuff.
too. And if you're doing this stuff with laser beams, well, that's fine. You started a fire with a laser beam. Well, you can't control it. All you can do is start something.
Yeah, fire creates its own weather.
Yeah. Right.
We had some horrendous winds that were going against normal seasonal patterns.
I
Okay?
found a video of this guy over near Polga, and it looks like the winds might have been as much as 70 miles an hour.
In the draws and everything else, gusts included. Yeah, I don't doubt it.
But the guy on Chapman said the winds were 55. Dave back here said 45. There's a half-hour difference between them, and they're a quarter mile apart.
Jarbo Gap just over here, they were recording it average at 54.
Yeah.
So 55, yeah, it's very
And that
believable.
channel I mentioned, he's also someone saying there's no winds, and look, the trees aren't burned, and look, well, there's our pale green trees left because they're dead.
I was in it.
Yes.
Where in the hell did the rain of fire come from?
Yes.
It didn't pick it up. That's not laser beams catching the air on fire. That's material being blown by wind. I was in it. I
Yes.
saw it.
Yes.
You know,
Someone
I
else.
love it with these guys. They have their theories and everything else, and they just it won't matter what evidence you give them, but they had to be here
Yeah.
to see it, be in it.
These firestorms of embers blowing around.
Yeah.
One person I heard, and I'm sure there's more, saying, well, these embers aren't starting these fires. Well, I recorded down at the river today where embers the size of your fist came up, hit something, and burned right there. Right. Now leaves are falling on the ground, so it kind of obscures the scene, but you can still see where these, fist-sized pieces landed and then burned right there.
So we didn't have winds like this during the Ortega fire.
It was like 10 years ago.
Oh no! Oh God! I was a youngster then.
Oh, okay.
This had been, God, early '90s, I'm guessing.
Uh-huh.
Ortega fire in Southern California.
Oh,
But
okay.
the point I'm getting at is we didn't have winds like that down there, and I saw a palm frond on fire, just sailing through the air, just
Uh-huh.
on an updraft, just sailing through the air, smoldering and smoking over a mile away from the head of the fire.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's how fires jump and move. Okay, we talk about preheating fuels. That's a real common thing that becomes a problem when you have dry fuel to begin with, low humidity. Well, this fire didn't even have a chance to preheat anything. It was just dropping embers as it went. I was driving through it. I watched things catch on fire all around me. I was next to McDonald's when it caught on fire.
Okay.
Okay. It was just dropping embers.
Well,
all
I've
over the
seen
place.
these firestorms like on Pearson and I think Skyway or Clark. But you're just in flames all around you, and
Yeah.
well, you've probably seen these videos. Those just embers. You're surrounded with
Yes. Oh yeah. And it just kept going. Just kept going. Did not stop. Well,
The football field works. I calculated it out. It gets you like 6 feet. See, nothing's melted. 6 feet per second, 4 miles an hour kind of thing. And that's another one of these things where people are claiming 237 mile an hour because it's doing a football field per second sort of thing. Well, you have to calculate that in relationship to the square footage being burned.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people are befuddled by this. Aluminum, but this is very common.
Yeah. Aluminum. No shock.
Yeah.
No shock. But, gun barrels and everything else warps.
Yeah.